On a random Saturday in the year 2020, as the world retreated inside, a young woman named Mary Collins got ready to see friends. She took an Uber to the Yards at Noda, a trendy apartment complex in Charlotte, North Carolina. She was a kind-hearted girl living with a disability that made her see the world with a rare trust. That night, a video was posted online with Mary, smiling, walking down a hallway. It would be the last time her family saw her alive. Mary Collins was a 20-year-old living in Charlotte, North Carolina with her grandmother, Mia Alderman. To describe Mary simply by her age would be to miss the essence of who she was. Those who knew her used words like lovely, gracious, and kind. This inherent goodness was central to her character, but it existed alongside significant challenges that shaped her world. Mary was born with a genetic disorder known as 22q deletion syndrome, or DiGeorge syndrome. This condition, the second most common genetic disorder after Down syndrome, can affect many systems in the body. For Mary, its primary impacts were on her cognitive and speech development. Her aunt, Kara Williams, explained that Mary had the understanding and mentality of a 14 or 15-year-old. She also lived with a severe speech impediment. Daily tasks that many take for granted, counting correct change, navigating public transportation, or even finding her way around her own neighborhood presented real hurdles for Mary. Yet within this framework, her spirit was remarkably pure. She operated from a place of profound trust, consistently seeing the best in people and believing in their fundamental goodness. This perspective, while beautiful, also rendered her uniquely vulnerable in a world where not everyone possesses such a gentle heart. She expected others to be as kind as she was, a trait that her family loved but also feared, knowing it could lead her into unsafe situations. Physically, Mary was petite, standing 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighing about 112 pounds. In the early, unsettling days of the COVID-19 pandemic, as lockdowns began and isolation increased, Mary's social world narrowed. She was at home with her grandmother, and the promise of social interaction, of seeing friends, held a powerful appeal. This desire for connection set the stage for a decision that would tragically intersect with the darkest of intentions. Her family's awareness of her vulnerability meant they were protective, but Mary, like any young adult, sought independence and companionship. This complex interplay of her trusting nature, her cognitive disability, and her longing for friendship forms the crucial foundation of everything that followed. The invitation arrived in the midst of the pandemic's eerie quiet. On March 28, 2020, Mary was asked to visit the apartment of two people she considered friends, 21-year-old Lavi Pham and his 24-year-old girlfriend Kelly Lavery. They lived together in the Yards at Noda, a modern, upscale apartment complex in Charlotte's arts district known as Noda, short for North Davidson. Pham was not a stranger. He and Mary had been friends in high school and had even dated briefly years before. Now he was in a relationship with Lavery. The couple reached out to Mary, offering a social lifeline during a time of enforced isolation. They didn't just invite her, they facilitated the entire trip. Since Mary did not know how to drive, Kelly Lavery personally ordered and paid for an Uber to bring Mary from her grandmother's home to their doorstep. For Mary, this gesture likely felt like exciting proof of a genuine friendship, a planned hangout to break the monotony of lockdown. The excitement, however, was not universal. Mary's grandmother, Mia Alderman, felt a deep and immediate sense of dread upon learning where Mary was going. Mia was acutely aware of the history between Mary and Kelly Lavery. For months, she had watched from the sidelines as Lavery engaged in a cruel bullying campaign against Mary on social media platforms. The comments were vicious and targeted, designed to erode a vulnerable young woman's self-worth. Lavery had written things like, "Ugh, nobody would want you," and the even more chilling, "If I were you, I would want to disappear as soon as possible." To Mia, Kelly Lavery was not a friend. She was a jealous, mean girl who posed a clear threat to her granddaughter's emotional well-being. As Mary prepared to leave, Mia attempted to stop her at the door. In a moment that would forever haunt the family, the arriving Uber driver intervened. Witnessing the dispute, the driver reportedly asserted that Mary was a grown woman, capable of making her own decisions, and encouraged her to go. Mary, thrilled to see an old friend and oblivious to the undercurrents, entered the vehicle and began the journey to the apartment complex, leaving behind the safety of her home for a gathering that was not at all what it seemed. The stage was now set, and the last person who saw Mary as a free, happy young woman was a rideshare driver who had no idea of the role he had just played.
On the evening of March 28th, within the apartment, a carefully constructed facade of normality was presented to the outside world. La Vie Femme took out his phone and recorded a short video. In the clip, Mary Collins was seen walking down the hallway of their apartment unit. She appears cheerful and unhurried, moving to pick up a food delivery that had just arrived at the door. Immediately after recording it, Femme posted this video to social media. Behind the camera, however, the reality was already diverging sharply from this curated snapshot. What the video did not show was the presence of a third person in the apartment, 20-year-old James Salerno, a friend of Femme and Lavery. It did not show the dynamics in the room after the camera was put away. According to the subsequent investigation and statements from a witness who spoke to Salerno, the social gathering quickly turned. Prosecutors would allege that at some point that night, Kelly Lavery and La Vie Femme put the prescription anti-anxiety drug Xanax into a drink intended for Mary. This act would have subdued her, making her less capable of resistance or understanding. The carefully constructed facade began to crumble with the relentless passage of time and a grandmother's unwavering instinct. After the video was posted, Mary Collins ceased all communication. Her grandmother, Mia Alderman, sent texts and made calls that went unanswered, a profound silence that was completely out of character. As hours stretched into a full day and then two, Mia's initial concern metastasized into full-blown terror. She knew Mary's vulnerabilities intimately and understood that her granddaughter's trusting nature could have led her into danger. Utilizing a phone tracking application on March 30th, Mia discovered the stationary location of Mary's cell phone. It was still pinging from the yards at Noda apartment complex. Armed with this digital evidence and her own profound conviction, Mia drove to the complex herself. Upon arrival, she did not call the couple. She walked through the courtyards and parking lots calling out Mary's name, her voice echoing against the buildings. This public distress search prompted La Vie Femme and Kelly Lavery to finally come out of their apartment. They approached Mia with a story. They claimed Mary had left their apartment 2 days earlier on the night of the 28th, and they had not seen her since. To Mia, this statement was an immediate and obvious lie. She knew with absolute certainty that Mary would never, under any circumstances, leave a location without her cell phone. Sensing deception, Mia called Mary's mother, Casey Del Pezzo, who rushed to the scene. Together, the two women insisted on seeing inside the apartment. Femme and Lavery reluctantly allowed them to enter. Mia and Casey conducted a frantic visual search of the main living areas, but as they moved toward the back bedroom, the primary bedroom, they were physically blocked or otherwise prevented from examining the space thoroughly. This obstruction confirmed Mia's deepest fears. Something was being hidden in that room. With no other recourse and the couple refusing further cooperation, Mia Alderman made the decision to call 911 at 11:09 p.m., officially reporting her granddaughter missing. When a Charlotte Mecklenburg police officer arrived, Mia poured out her entire story: Mary's disability, her vulnerability, the tracked phone location, and her firm belief that the couple inside the apartment was lying. The officer listened, then walked to the door of Unit 316 and knocked. There was no answer. With no immediate evidence of a crime and no legal basis to force entry, the officer left the complex. Mia was informed that a missing persons report would be filed, and critically, she was instructed by the investigating detective to stop contacting Femme and Lavery, as her persistent efforts were being viewed as harassment.
The official machinery of a missing persons case moved slowly, but parallel to it, a crucial crack appeared in the wall of silence surrounding Unit 316. By April 4th, the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department's homicide unit had taken over the investigation. This shift from a missing persons case to a potential murder investigation occurred because detectives had received what they termed credible information from a witness. This individual came forward with a story so gruesome it was difficult to fathom. The witness stated they had spoken with Jimmy Salerno, the third person who had been in the apartment on March 28th. According to this account, Salerno had confessed to being present during a horrific attack. He allegedly described how Mary Collins was tied up, brutally beaten inside the apartment's bathtub, and killed. Furthermore, he detailed the macabre aftermath. Mary's body was placed inside the hollowed-out cavity of a mattress, which the perpetrators then planned to burn to destroy the evidence. The witness also reported that after the murder, Salerno had called an 18-year-old named America Dial, a girl he had recently met on the dating app Tinder, and asked her to come to the apartment to help clean the scene. Armed with this specific and shocking information, homicide detectives returned to the yards at Noda. This time, Levy Pham consented to let them enter the apartment for a look. The officers conducted a walkthrough. They entered the primary bedroom, the same room Mary's family had been blocked from searching. Pham, in what investigators would later see as a brazen act of misdirection, lifted the mattress on the bed frame, showing the space beneath it. To the detectives' eyes in that moment, nothing seemed amiss. The mattress appeared normal, just a mattress on a bed. They observed no obvious signs of disturbance or blood in their initial sweep. They left the apartment without finding Mary. This police visit, however, did not close the door. The witness remained adamant. 2 days later, on April 6th, that same witness, accompanied by a second person who had also heard the details, went directly to CMPD headquarters. They insisted to investigators that the information was accurate and pleaded with them to focus on the mattress itself. They stressed that the body was not under the mattress, but concealed inside it. This persistent, detailed testimony from two separate individuals finally pushed detectives to seek a search warrant specifically authorizing them to dismantle and examine the contents of that bed. The difference between a casual glance and a forensic search was about to be revealed. On April 6, 2020, equipped with a judicial search warrant, Charlotte-Mecklenburg homicide detectives returned to the yards at Noda for what would be the final visit. They did not announce their arrival at the apartment door. Instead, they waited and made contact with Levy Pham as he was exiting the building, detaining him. Other officers then proceeded directly to Unit 316 and entered. Inside, they found Kelly Lavery in the bed in the primary bedroom. She appeared to be heavily under the influence of drugs, her state so altered she was barely coherent. After securing the occupants and clearing the apartment, the forensic examination began in earnest. The focus was solely on the bed where Lavery had been found. Investigators removed all the bedding, the sheets, the comforter, the pillows. They were left with the mattress itself. It was a modern, fabric-covered mattress on a standard frame. Using tools, they carefully cut through the outer fabric layer of the mattress. As they peeled it back and examined the internal padding, their discovery confirmed the witness's horrific account. Concealed within the very stuffing of the mattress were two large, black contractor-grade trash bags. The bags had been tightly sealed. Officers removed the heavy bundle from its hiding place. The bags were opened, one after the other. Inside, they found a human form meticulously wrapped in a complex cocoon of duct tape and plastic saran wrap, layer upon layer, creating an airtight seal. In a grim attempt to mask the scent of decomposition, the perpetrators had poured common household products over and inside the bags: Cascade Platinum dishwashing soap and Bath & Body Works pumpkin spice shower gel. The contrast between the mundane, seasonal scents and the horrific content was jarring to investigators. They noted the clinical, calculated nature of the concealment. It was not a hasty hiding place, but a deliberate, multi-step process to preserve the secret. The layers of plastic and tape were carefully cut away. The body inside was identified as Mary Collins. She was partially clothed, and articles of clothing were found tied around her neck and her right ankle. A subsequent thorough search of the bedroom revealed Mary's driver's license and bank card hidden under a stack of papers. Chemical testing would later reveal the presence of blood in the bedroom and in the adjacent bathroom's bathtub. The evidence left no doubt. Mary had been killed in that apartment, and an extensive, days-long effort had been made to hide both the act and her remains just feet from where her killers slept.
The official cause and manner of Mary Collins' death were determined by a medical examiner's autopsy performed on April 4, 2020, the same day homicide detectives first entered the case. The findings were detailed in a clinical report that quantified the unspeakable violence Mary had endured. The autopsy concluded that Mary died from multiple sharp force injuries. The number was not in the dozens, but in the hundreds. She had been stabbed approximately 133 times. The wounds were distributed across her head, her neck, her torso, and her extremities. However, a critical medical detail emerged from this grim tally. The pathologist noted that not a single one of those 133 stab wounds had penetrated a major internal organ or severed a primary blood vessel. This specific medical fact led to a devastating inference. Mary Collins did not die quickly from a fatal strike to the heart or lungs. Instead, the nature of the wounds indicated she had been left to slowly bleed to death, likely over a period of time, suffering from cumulative blood loss. This detail transformed the legal understanding of the crime, suggesting a prolonged and torturous attack rather than a single violent moment. Alongside the stab wounds, the autopsy documented a significant laceration on her face and multiple contusions or bruises on her face and scalp, evidence of a severe beating. These findings provided the horrific how. The why would be pulled from a different source: the digital evidence recovered from the cell phones seized from Pham, Lavery, and Salerno. Prosecutors, in later court proceedings, would outline their theory of motive based on text messages and communications found on these devices. They alleged that the triggering event for the murder was a sexual proposition that Mary refused. According to the state, Lavi Pham and Kelly Lavery had pressured Mary to engage in a threesome with them. When Mary, consistent with her character and boundaries, said no, the couple's reaction escalated with unimaginable brutality. The texts allegedly detailed their anger at her refusal and their subsequent decision to kill her. The legal aftermath of Mary Collins's murder unfolded over years, a slow and often painful process for her grieving family. The 4 individuals involved faced distinct charges. Lavi Pham, Kelly Lavery, and James Salerno were each charged with first-degree murder, first-degree kidnapping, and concealing or removing a dead body. America Dial, the teenager called to clean the scene, was charged with accessory after the fact to murder and concealing a death. Their paths through the justice system diverged significantly. The first resolution came with Kelly Lavery. Facing the possibility of a trial and a life sentence, she entered into a plea agreement with prosecutors. In exchange for her guilty plea, the charge was reduced from first-degree to second-degree murder, while she also pleaded guilty to kidnapping and concealing a death. On the day of her sentencing, Mary's family listened as a judge imposed a prison term of 25 to 32 years. For Mary's mother, Casey Del Piezo, this outcome felt like a profound failure of justice. She had wanted a life sentence, but the district attorney's office explained the grim calculus. Taking the case to trial carried the risk of an acquittal or a shorter sentence if the jury did not convict on the highest charge. The plea guaranteed a significant prison term, but it left the family feeling powerless, as if the state had bargained away the true value of Mary's life. The cases against the others dragged on. James Salerno was granted a $250,000 secured bond in January 2023, a decision that horrified Mary's grandmother, Mia, who saw him in court laughing and acting jovial with his family. As of the latest available information, Lavi Pham and James Salerno have pleaded not guilty and remain in custody awaiting trial, their court dates repeatedly delayed by procedural motions. America Dial, arrested in Colorado in June 2020, was extradited and later released on a $100,000 bond in September 2021. She resides with family in South Carolina while awaiting her own trial. From this abyss of loss, Mary's family channeled their anguish into advocacy. They founded an organization named Mary's Voice with a mission to petition for changes in how law enforcement handles missing persons cases involving disabled or vulnerable adults. They fight to ensure that the next family's desperate plea is met with urgent, believing action instead of bureaucratic delay and dismissal. Mary's sister, Riley, remembered her saying, "She was goofy, sweet, given, and elegant. The world didn't deserve to lose her before she had the chance to explore it." Mary's story is a haunting reminder of trust betrayed, of systemic failure, and of a light extinguished by those who mistook her innocence for weakness. Her voice, though silenced, now echoes through her family's unwavering fight for change. I would like to know your opinion on this matter. Do you think Mary's family got the true justice they deserved? Drop your answers in the comment section. If this video touched you in any way, kindly drop a like. It helps us know our content is being appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy stories like this, and as always, stay well and stay safe.